everyone, and welcome back to Waterhouse Forde. Well, today we've got a new toy. We have decided to buy a ultrasonic cleaner to help us clean some of the parts from the tractor restoration and other projects as well. I've been looking at these for quite a while, and I've always fancied getting one. And finally we've decided to take the plunge. Now, before you get your hopes up, this is not the finest model available to man. It is the top model available from China. So we'll see how that goes, and I'm hoping that it's going to be okay and that it's going to suit our needs. Okay, well, here we go. Get it out of the box. Get rid of the packaging. Okay, there's the lid. Finest stainless steel that has a few rust marks on it. Hopefully that won't be too much of an issue. We've got an instruction booklet. Okay, let's get into it. Power lead, which has a UK plug, which is great. There's a basket. And here we go. Voila, the main unit. Alright, so as I said, there we go. Looks good. It's exactly what I was expecting. It's exactly what I saw on the advert. I bought it off eBay, by the way. If you just search on eBay, you'll find them. There's a few models available, but these seem to be certainly the most popular. So, having read the instructions, as I understand it, we need to fill it with a liquid. Obviously, water is the default, but you can use a little bit of detergent mixed into the water. I'm going to use engine degreaser or parts degreaser for today. I have one that I'm going to use, but I've actually ordered another one, hoping that that'll come during the week. But I'm sure it's going to be fun. And if you don't know, the way this works, basically sitting underneath this, so this is a stainless steel bowl, and sitting underneath it on the floor here, as I understand it, there are two ultrasonic emitters, and the idea is that they generate very high frequency sound waves which cause bubbles to form. Very, very small bubbles, minuscule apparently, and those bubbles will obviously explode. They pop as they're traveling around and through the liquid, and of course therefore through and around the parts that you're cleaning. And as they pop, that basically creates a scrubbing action, which cleans the part. I've read a lot about it. I've watched a couple of other videos on YouTube. And I've got high hopes. I think that this is, and I'm hoping that this is going to do a good job. So the first thing we need to do is fill it up, and then we'll switch it on, put a few parts in, and see how we go. I filled it with degreaser now, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug it in. And now this has two functions. It has a heating function, and then it has the ultrasonic. What I'm going to do, I'm going to switch it on. I'm going to get the temperature up first. Now the manual says the ideal temperature is between 40 and 60 degrees. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 40. I always think if you can get stuff to work at the lower setting, then, well, that has to be a good thing, because it kind of leaves you, maybe this logic is flawed, but it leaves you space at the top end in case you ever need it later for something which perhaps needs more cleaning. So anyway, just a simple kettle plug lead. Plugs in the back here, and we'll plug it into the wall. Switch on. Oh, we have action. Okay, now apparently this temperature here, it's reading 17 at the moment. Now that is apparently the temperature of the fluid at the moment. So what we need to do, we want to pick that up to, well, they say 60 there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pop it down to, let's go to 45, why not, and switch it on. And what I'll do is I'll pop the lid on, as I assume it'll heat more efficiently with the lid on. And let's see if it actually, if we notice a change in the temperature. Not sure how quickly it actually heats. Well, it's certainly not going to be quick. Right, so let's go over to the parts now, and perhaps start loading the basket. Okay, so here we've got all the parts laid out, which have been soaking in degreaser for a few days. If you saw my previous video where I dismantled the carburetor, then you'll recognize most of the parts, and I'll put a link to that video in here. Right, now you can see this basket, the holes are quite large in comparison to some of these parts, so not everything is going to work. I'm going to leave the main carburetor, the two main parts, the top and the bottom, I'm going to leave those till last. So certainly the butterflies, they can go in. Now again, reading the manual, it talks about not allowing parts to overlap and about leaving some gaps between parts so that the bubbles can get around and get to every aspect or every part of the parts. So I'm going to sort of position these reasonably carefully in here so that they're not overlapping. Right, there you go. So you can see how I've loaded the basket. Let's go check on the temperature now. So you can see it's taken about 20 minutes. I didn't time it exactly, but I'd say 20 minutes to bring it up to almost 45 degrees, which we set it to. I'm going to go ahead and load the basket. There we are, we just hit 45. You can feel the heat coming off there. It's not massive, but it's just a nice gentle heat. So we're going to pop this in. And these two hooks just hook over the edge like that, which is quite nice. We'll pop the lid on. Right, the lid doesn't go on with those sticking out, so what we'll do is fold them back in. There we go. Now they do say you need to close the lid because obviously, well, I imagine you get a lot of bubbling going on, and that obviously then means it's not necessarily going to foam up or anything, but you're going to get a little bit of spray. Now I'm going to start at 3 minutes. Again, they recommend 3 minutes. So I'm just going to give that a go, and we'll see how it cleans. So we can hear a little bit of noise. I'm intrigued. Let's have a look inside anyway. I've never seen this before, so you'll be seeing it for the first time with me. Here we go. Alright, well that's kind of exciting. No. Very good. Well, we're going to leave that now for 3 minutes. And we'll see how, take everything out and see how it's cleaned. Okay, that caught me by surprise a little bit. So those 3 minutes went by very quickly. I went off and did something else, and before I knew it, it was finished. Now the interesting thing I note is that despite me setting it to 45 degrees, it's actually risen to, it's actually gone down now to 49, but it was actually sitting at 50 just before I switched the camera back on. So that's interesting. Right, let's so we've got a tiny little bit of fluid on the top, so it demonstrates that you do need the lid, because obviously it's been bubbling up and hitting the lid. Let's get this out and see what we can find. Look, most things are clean, but not as clean as I might have hoped. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn things around a little bit and maybe put it in for a little bit longer and see if that helps. You can see things like that's come up nice. These two shafts have come up reasonably well. That's come up good. That's good. These bolts are quite clean. But notice here it's sort of cleaned at the bottom but not at the top of this coupling. That may just be positioning. So I mean, that's fair enough. That butterfly there, again, now that was quite dirty. It was almost black. So quite a lot has come off, and I suspect, you see, that would actually buff off actually quite nicely. But looking at the back, you know, that could have been better. So let me do that. I'm going to turn everything around, and we'll give it another go and see how we get on. I'm going to go for, yeah, let's go for 5 minutes. Okay, so we'll be back in 5 minutes and see how it goes. Okay, that was 5 minutes at 50 degrees. Let's see how it's done. So the first thing is this coupling that I showed you earlier. See, it's kind of cleaned at the bottom edge here, but not at the top. I turned it over and laid it flat down like that, and that doesn't seem to have done anything to get rid of that. The interesting thing is that the brass bit has cleaned up very nice, but the whatever this is, this other alloy, that hasn't cleaned up quite as nicely. Now the truth is, this won't actually be difficult to clean by hand. That's not really the point, is it? So that's that. I may actually try even longer, and possibly maybe what I'll do, I'll run it up to 60 degrees as they say. So they've said between 40 and 60. Maybe I'll try it at 60, and possibly even for longer. This butterfly hasn't cleaned up very well at all. Now again, that may actually be, well, you know, because it's just bad staining anyway. As I said earlier, that feels like, those little bits there feel like, in fact, there you go, you can actually just scrape them off. So that's just a little bit of scrubbing, and that will come off quite well. The reality is, this, how clean does this need to be, right? It needs to be clean, of course, but it doesn't have to be shining. So I think that's reasonable. That's a reasonable job, I would say. Things like this. Now this is the the idle adjustment screw. Look, it's cleaned up the threads quite well, but this handle is, I mean, it's rust. That is rust. So again, probably wire brush and maybe a bit of sandpaper, that'll get that cleaned up quite nicely. Okay, so how did we get on? Well, we managed to get everything clean, and just bring it over and show you. So we got, that's come up nice. There's a couple of spots there where, yeah, may have been better, but it's certainly a lot better than it was. And you can see all the various brass bits and shafts and jets, and those are all looking good. And even inside on the top cover, again, certainly better, much better than it was. This took a lot of manual work inside all these little crevices, all these little folds and seams. And I tell you, when you're cleaning one of these things, you begin to wonder, why the heck can't they just make them smooth and just not have all these little crevices and seams and stuff. But anyway, look, I think the ultrasonic cleaner definitely made it easier to clean overall, but there's no substitute for good old-fashioned elbow grease, a couple of scrapers, picks, brushes, little screwdriver, another pick, etc., and even some sandpaper for that matter. And I did use a wire wheel to do most of it, as much as I could. And as I say, I think that the ultrasonic cleaner makes it easier, but it doesn't magically just clean everything up. Okay, everyone. Well, listen, that's today's video. That's it for now. The next video will be us putting the carburetor together, taking the best bits from both of them, and hopefully making one good carb. I'm comfortable that we've got or at least one good of every single part, so we should be set to go. So that'll be the next video. I hope that you'll join us. In the meantime, if you like what you see and you'd like to follow along and see what else we get up to, please click subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell button when you do subscribe, and that will ensure that you get notified whenever we put up a new video. As always, if you've got any comments, please put them down below. Suggestions, ideas, just general feedback, and of course if you maybe even have some stories to tell, then we're always eager to hear them. Thanks again, and see you on the next video.